Hey, thanks for watching my video, and this is a video where it's my 2-year cancer anniversary, and I'm feeling proud of that. I made it through 2 long, hard years, and I am reflecting on what this video is about me reflecting on what I've learned over the last 2 years. I think there are 5 things that I came up with that I know now that I didn't know in the beginning that feel vitally important to me. So yeah, stay tuned and listen in for the 5 things I learned over the last 2 years that I want you to know. Thanks. Well, today's a pretty important day for me because it's my Cancerversary, which means that it's been 2 years since I received the diagnosis that I had breast cancer. And I was given the diagnosis invasive ductal carcinoma. And I think originally it was staged at stage 2, grade 2. And I have really been through some things in 2 years. Oh my God. And I just read something last night, and I want to share some of that. I kind of want to make this like one of those bulleted point lists, because I like when people do that, like 5 things not to do when you go and meet your future in-laws or whatever. That's a weird one. But like, you know, here's like the 10 things I learned in the last 2 years, that 10 things I know now that I didn't know then. I mean, something like that. I'm not sure what to call it, but, yeah, it's like, well, I will say like the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't even know if it's the number 1 thing, but it might be, oh my God, I'm sweating. It's got so hot again where I live, and we're gonna have our power shut off because it's like wind advisory and heat, etc. And I live in a dry climate in California. So the first thing is like, I never thought I'd still be dealing with this 2 years later. I mean, I didn't know anybody that went through having cancer. Like, I wasn't right next to a parent or a relative or a best friend or anything like that. I've not experienced anybody really dealing with like, you know, severe, significant health things. So that was like a big shock to me. I was like, oh, okay, cancer. I mean, in fact, like so much so that I didn't even really associate anything like too horrible with it. And now I've come to learn that like cancer is like the thing people say, well, at least it's not cancer, you know, it's like the worst case scenario. So I'd say number 1 is like, wow, 2 years later and I'm still dealing with it all. But I guess if somebody really wanted to like take the fast track and get through it all really fast, I mean, someone who does like all of the standard of care and gets reconstruction and stuff like that, then I guess you could knock it out in a year or something like that, maybe a year and a half. But I'm 2 years, and it's definitely going to be 2.5 years before I'm even done with reconstruction, which is a little crazy to think, because that's a long time. That's a significant fraction of my life. And so yeah, I'd say that's probably number 1. It's just like really recognizing that this shit doesn't go by fast. None of it's like, oh yeah, and then I'm done. The other thing, which would be number 2, but it might need to be number 1, but you know, for purposes of this video, it's number 2. Nobody will advocate for you. So if you think that like there's some special unicorn doctor that's like got you, is like watching out for you and is like looking at whatever curve there is ahead, or is considering that like you eat organic food, or you live in this climate, or how much you exercise, or takes into account the level of stress you have in your life or the people you have in your life. I mean, nobody can ever really know your life better than you can. So it stands to reason that a doctor isn't going to know anything more about your life than like what you present him with, you know, it's what you present her or him with. And it's like, so by that, it's like my oncologist, oh, the little squirrel just got hit by a car, and then the other squirrel went over there to like be sad. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Sorry. I'm not sorry, but just okay. So anyway, there's life, the preciousness of life and death, and Squirrels just die every day from all of our car driving. So, yeah, nobody will advocate for you the way you'll advocate for yourself. So I have had to like just, and there's nothing like wrong with it, but it's just this sort of like expectation or this presumption that I had, like, oh, well, the doctor, like, yeah, they're gonna hold your hand and walk you through it. And I mean, they do amazing things, and there are some amazing doctors. I'm happy with the doctors that I have, but they're busy, you know, they're not like lacking in patience, that's for sure. So they try to get you through quickly, and they might not understand everything. They might not understand the reasons why you're making certain choices about things. So it's just like, okay, so there's that, and then there's also just car off. There's also just like I still feel like I need to really go through all my documentation and really reorder and remember everything that I've been through and what date it happened, and know, and like organize all my blood count materials. I had it all really organized in the beginning, and then now it's just not because of various things. So just really knowing like the way in which everything happened and having a holistic picture. There's no way, like I went to 2 places. I've been at Stanford and I've been at my local oncologist, and there's just really no way either of them can like have the full picture because I was being seen someplace else. Like Stanford didn't even want to look at the images from the local place here because they said their system actually has a hard time reading them or something like that. They just don't communicate well. So I mean, they did. They looked at the imaging, but it's not as good as it would have been if they did the imaging. So, you know, there's just so many things like that where it's just like you have to advocate for yourself. You have to, like, follow up. People don't follow up all the time. I mean, this is like a human thing, but I just checked in with the plastic surgeon's assistant who was going to get back to me about whether or not I was going to have a drain because she told me I was going to have a drain. And I'm like, no, Dr. N surgeon said I'm not going to have a drain. Can you double check? Yeah. She's like, I'll get back to you. She doesn't get back to you. So it's like you have to have a good way of keeping track of what people owe to you, because like the chances of them failing and not getting back to you when they say they will is high. And then like at the same time, you know, simultaneously I'm dealing with my brain is not the same. I can't remember things as well. I do write them down, but I'm tracking a lot of different things, and I'm dealing with like my blood. So you know, it's a lot. So you just like really have to advocate for yourself. No question about it, because no one's going to do as good of a job as you will for yourself. So it's really important, I think, to remember. The reason I look so sweaty is because I am, because I went to yoga, and oh my God, I just like have to punctuate my little list here by I am so grateful for Bikram yoga. I know it's like a controversial type of yoga. I've said in the past, like it's Bikram exercise. It's not like a lot of other forms of hatha yoga, but what it is, I feel, is very healing. I feel very healed from it. I have in the past. I've heard stories of people who have broken addictions and recovered from car accident injuries, and I just think if you have a physical injury, although I think it's more than physical, which I do, it's very healing. So it's like so humbling for me and so hard because it's a practice that I've been doing for 20 years, and you know, I just like I got so comfortable feeling a lot of depth and going to my edge and feeling very capable, and it's just like I'm a total beginner again. I'm just a total beginner, and it's not, you know, it's good to be a beginner and start over. I mean, I like that perspective on life and living, that every day is a new day, every day is a new beginning. So why not be a beginner? Like, you know, I don't need to know everything. So, yeah, I'm just dipping my toe in. Well, I mean, I'm taking class. I don't know if I'm dipping my toe in, but I'm just doing like what I can, basically. And so far I've done a few classes in a number of weeks, you know, but my ideal would be 2 to 3 times a week of doing that. And then also going to the gym two times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, something like that. So that I could be like, you know, helping my body in different ways. I do feel like I kind of stretched. Like there's a lot of pulling, and I haven't been doing the physical therapy. So, but I have been doing a little bit of stretching. So I just I did take it really easy. I sat some stuff out, but I feel so enlivened by it, and just like my body. Did I say this already? Sometimes I do videos and I don't publish them, or I write them in different places and stuff, so I don't know what I say and what I don't say. But I was having such a bad pain in my hip and my knee. I know that for sure that this yoga. I feel like I'm getting attacked by pillows and blankets. I feel like it. I mean, it went away. The pain went away, and then just like a few days pass, and I start to feel it, coming back on, like that pain. So, yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with yoga. Well, that's why I'm sweaty. This is actual sweat. Well, now it doesn't look as sweaty, but I sure did before. I'm really wet. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with like my list here. Okay, number 3 is that it's really important to talk to people who either had cancer or have cancer, or have, I would say, would be maybe even better than had. I mean, both are useful because it's nice to talk to people who are ahead of where you are, who've been through what you're about to go through. But it's also nice to talk to people who are going through what you're going through, so you can commiserate and you can be like, oh my God, my aching back, oh my God, my knee, or chemo, or whatever it is. Because, and the reason, well, the studies do say, and I hear people say this, although I haven't verified for myself, but that reoccurrence is actually lower when you have a group of peers and people that you talk to and consult with and meet with, friends who are a support group. That's what they're called. Support group, the incidence of recurrence, and it makes sense. But the reason why I'm saying it's on my list of things that I think are really important to know when you get a cancer diagnosis, maybe that's what I'll call this series, is because nobody will get it. People will say really dumb shit. People will mean well and not know what to say, and people will say really dumb stuff, and then they'll just compare it to somebody's toothache. I mean, it just, I don't, and there's nothing really wrong with that, except that it can feel very isolating and lonely when somebody's like, I mean, I've just had a lot of things said to me. And I know plenty of other people have as well. So it's really nice to just be able to have that like support group and those people where you're like, oh my God, like hair growing back. Like every single person will comment on the hair. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're a lot more than our hair. And sometimes it can feel like all somebody cares about is like how you look. I mean, what about how you feel and what you're going through? And like, I always thought, like, people always think, I've said this in videos before too, like they think they know what kind of parent they're going to be, and then they get there and they're like, oh, I'm not going to be that Zen parent. I thought I was going to be, I'm like the perfect parent who never does XYZ thing. And anyway, so you just don't know like what anything is like until you go through it yourself. So super important to have people around you who get you, who know you, who you can talk to, who have gone through cancer or have cancer. I think it's even beyond doctors, because like many of the doctors have not gone through cancer themselves, so they don't know how absolutely like just awful it is to go through chemo. I mean, they hear people, which is good, but they just don't know like firsthand. And it's so good to sit next to somebody who knows and who gets it. And they're like, oh my God, that metal taste in my mouth. It's horrible, so. Okay, the 4th thing is to gather as much information as you can, unless you're one of those people who is like, okay, doc, just do whatever and have no questions, although you wouldn't be listening to this if you were one of those people, because I know that there's like 2 types of people, maybe more. One who just says, do whatever you need to do, and the other type of person who researches feverishly and tries to figure it out feverishly, and tries to like, make sense of all of it and talk to different people. And what I realized is that I was like, I listened to people whose opinion I respected, which I think is still a good idea. But then you, at the end of the day, have to decide for yourself. Like, I can't tell you, I got into conversations with men who had opinions about whether or not I should reconstruct or not. And it's like, it's not really your choice. And I listened to it at times, I took it in. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I am just being maybe superficial. Maybe I am just like caring about the aesthetic. Oh, maybe that's superficial of me. And it's just like, you know what, screw that. I'm going to decide for myself what matters to me. And I feel like the way to do that is to just imagine if you're by yourself, and you're like, for me, it's like, just imagine I'm by myself, I'm navigating through the world. How do I want to feel and how do I want to look? And that way it takes away the influence of somebody else's opinion. And it's just, and you will get that. You will get the opinion of others constantly, like we do on other topics, in the world. It's not like cancer is the only thing people have opinion about, but believe me, they do. You'll get the people who tell you to drink frozen lemonade and whose dog cured cancer from like the neighborhood, I don't know what, pound or something. Like, it's just, there's a lot of people out there. And maybe those things are true, but they can be very discouraging when that's not what's happening for you. And you feel like you have to like make choices to do things that are toxic and like taking toxic poison into your body, and you feel bad like, oh, I wish I was the one who just drank papaya juice and like cured cancer, healed cancer. And so maybe there are those few lucky people, but it's not the majority. But what was I saying? Boy, I sure got myself off track there. I don't even remember what this number was. Ah, right. So listening to yourself and figuring out, like, they tell you this and nobody believes it. I mean, I didn't. They're like, you have time. I mean, supposedly the cancer takes time to grow, to develop. It's not like an overnight phenomena that happens unless you catch it when it's stage 0, which, God bless you that you were one of the lucky ones to figure that out. I don't even know how. I don't know how. I mean, I have some idea, but I don't want to tangent off on that. But like, and you really just have to listen to the doctors, talk to other people. I recommend talking to people who have had the same exact diagnosis as you. Uterine cancer treatment is very different than breast cancer treatment, or even triple positive breast cancer treatment, triple negative breast cancer. It's like, or metastases versus non-metastases. There are a lot of different variations and treatments for those different types. So yeah, it's because like at the end of the day, I mean, that was just a really big one for me. I didn't realize how much opinion other people would have and how much I would take it on and like take it in and be like, oh. And it took some like real, ground shaking kinds of events to happen, some fights and some, stuff like that, like removing myself from the situation, some distance, some fighting, some distance, and reflection to really be like, what do I want? What's most important for me? And yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's been horrible that I've had to like deal with, this side did not have cancer. This side had cancer. I just decided to prophylactically get rid of this breast so that I didn't have to deal with it. And I've had like a lot of problems in this breast. And I'm like, how frustrating is that? That's what's happened in the non-cancer breast, It's like if I would have left that intact, although I would have, I don't think I should have done that by any means because, yeah, I just don't think that. It's just like really unfortunate that I have had extra issue on the side that didn't have cancer. So, but still, I've had to figure out like, okay, what do I want to do? And just listen to myself at the end of the day. And it's a process. It was a real process for me to get to that point. I guess the last one that I can think of right now, which would probably be number 5, it's kind of related to number 4, which is at the end of the day, you just have to do what works for you. You are the person who has to live with yourself day in and day out. You're the person who, whenever you die, whether it's, soon or late, hopefully it's later than sooner, but we die naked and with nothing. And I think that it's really important to remember that, we have to face ourselves and be with ourselves, and people come and go in our lives, situations come and go, and We just have to make the choices that are best for ourselves and what we feel good about. And some people feel good about doing all alternative and then, dying. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but I had a friend years ago who was like under 30 who got cancer, and she only wanted to do alternative treatments, and that's what she did, and she died. And that's just all she could do. There was no way she was gonna do the allopathic path, and she got to choose that. And yes, a lot of people said stuff and tried to do whatever they could to influence her, and she at the end of the day did what she felt comfortable with. And some people just do all conventional and don't even consider doing an alternative plan or an integrative approach or anything like that. So it's just like you really have to decide for yourself what you are okay with and what you're not okay with. And like I live in a community, I live in Nevada County, and Nevada County is one of the counties where there's a lot of cannabis. People grow cannabis, and it's around me. I'm not somebody who smokes it. I'm just like, marijuana has really never been my thing. So, but there's tinctures and there's edibles and there's all this stuff. And I've had a lot of people say like, oh, I juiced cannabis leaves like a year ago or something like that. And oh my God, it was a lot of work. But I just like have had it so around me, and people have wanted to like put it in me, have me ingest like this CBD stuff because there's all this talk about it. And anyway, it's just like, I mean, I've resisted it for various reasons. I've also stayed open to it, but there's been a part of me that's like, I'm not just going to take it like at face value and be like, oh, it's good for everything. It's this cure-all that's just good for everything, which is one of the things I hear out there. I'm trying to conduct my own research, and each, people's situations are different. It's like, my understanding is that THC can be very contraindicated for somebody who has a hormone-driven cancer, like an estrogen. I don't know about progesterone, but an estrogen-driven cancer, the THC can increase the estrogen. Okay, so that's not good. But if it was a triple negative person with breast cancer, that might not be a problem. So someone's just like, oh yeah, it works for breast cancer. And then, I've been dealing like with this ITP, this thrombocytopenia too, low platelets, and like someone else, a really good friend of mine was like, hey, try this. This is good, and CBD and all this stuff. And then I saw this article, and who knows? I've only found one article at this point, and so I still need to do more research on it. But that said that CBD could actually lower platelets. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So it's just, I feel like it all kind of ties together. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to talk to people whose opinion you respect. And many of them, like 5 people, like don't just listen to one person, talk to 5 people and see what they would do, and then take that information and like figure out for yourself, because again, and you just have to live with yourself. No matter how long I live, it's like my 2-year cancer anniversary. I want to feel like I did what was right for me with the best information that I had, and I made decisions that were right for me. And I guess for someone, they could say, hey, yeah, it's right for me to just ask my husband or ask my wife, what would you do, and then do what they would do. Great. Maybe if that's like your honest truth about what is most important to you, and you respect their opinion more than you respect your own, great. Then I think you should do that. Then obviously you would feel comfortable saying, no, they're better at making these kind of decisions than I am. And there's probably something to that, So, yeah, hopefully it's helpful. There's, a lot out there. And I also think taking your time, a lot of information out there, taking your time and finding people who inspire you and doing research and surrendering. I like this motto that I've come up with that I use on Instagram, which is part surrender, part kick its ass. And I think that it takes that level of like rigor where you're like, no, cancer, you're not going to win. I need to be alive. I will beat you, and I'm doing this, and I'm powerful, and medicine's powerful, and God's powerful. And then, there's just that surrender of like, it's really ultimately, depending on how you want to look at it, partly out of our hands. Things happen that aren't right. Things happen that aren't fair. And, we have to surrender somewhat to life. So it's really, I think it's kind of like a two-pronged approach, if you will. You have to like stay vigilant, stay rigorous, and also let go in those moments. Like when I went from alternative to conventional, it was like, okay, I just have to let go, and I just have to trust that this is what I need to do, and not keep fighting it. Not keep fighting like, I don't want to have chemo and toxicity in my body and poison and all this stuff. And so just, surrendering is really important as well, while staying vigilant. So hope this helps. Let me know if it did, and thanks for listening.